Hello, I'm Kyle. And my research question is how to make the coastlines in Auckland more accessible to the public. My presentation will divide it into 4 steps. The first one is introduction. I will give some background about my issue, about my research, and the aims and objectives, then the method, and finally the outcomes. Okay, let's move to the introduction. Actually, I think the coast is a place all people can join, especially in New Zealand, including all of us. However, there are some limitations to the public, for the public to get access to the coastlines. At first, the first type of limitation could be the physical limitation, such as what we can see in the picture, the cliffs or high mountains, which make us difficult to walk to the coast edge. And there are some public facilities can survey the access to the coast edge, including highways, such as what we can see. Yeah. And there are still some other limitations. For example, some beaches are private and flooding. And sometimes we have to cross private houses or positions to get access to the coast areas. So there are some restrictions for us. There are so many debates about this issue in New Zealand. Actually, in 2004, there is a Foreshore and the Seabed Act involved Maori wanting ownership of beaches in New Zealand because they think they own the beaches before the European coming, and the Waitangi stated they can keep their own beaches or positions. But the public was shocked at that time, and Prime Minister Helen Clark said that the government would be passing a law to ensure that beach in public hands. And then in 18 November, the government passed a Foreshore and Seabed bill, and it became a law to say that the ownership of beaches was Crown. And finally, in 2011, this law was replaced by the Marine and Coastal Act 2011. It said that there's no ownership of beach. Yeah. And I want to make a summary of my introduction. Coast areas are vital and have their own values to the public. And as we said just now, there are different types of limitation for us to get access to the coastline. And there are some debates about it in New Zealand. And in my research, I aim to improve the current issue and make more coastline be accessible to public. And then I want to discuss some possible causes of this problem and study some similar case as my reference. And my final aim is to connect more coastline to city center or community. And my methods can divide into 4 steps. Case study, and want to classify type of coastal areas and limitations. And I will choose a site as my example and start my design. And finally, I will finish it. Okay, the first case study should be the Onihongar foreshore. Actually, the access was surveyed by the State Highway 20 for nearly 30 years. And the Auckland Council and NZTA want to solve this problem. So as we can see, there is a gateway feature bridge, which is low and elegant to reconnect the coastal edge and the community physically. This bridge is conceived of as belonging to the people and land in Onihongar rather than the motorway. And the second case study could be the Puke-Ariki landing in New Plymouth foreshore. This city is the largest west coast city in New Zealand, but just like some other cities, it had over time turned its back to the sea. So the local district council want to find some potential to connect the coast edge and the community of city center. The Puke-Ariki landing is a key component in this project. The design was achieved by a wide pedestrian crossing and upgraded pedestrian underpass following the stream. And this green terrace park connects the coast edge and community physically and experimentally. It also provides some sitting edges and open areas for public to have fun, actually. And the third case study could be the coastal walkway in also New Plymouth foreshore. I think it could be a simple design. The designers were asked to give some landscape architecture and urban design surveys. And this design was achieved by new seawards, piers, promenades, signage, and something others, I think. It's also connect the coastal edge and the community physically. And the aim of this design is to maximize the enjoyment of public in this dramatic coastal edge.
A couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. And next, I want to make a simple classification of this kind of coastline. I think the first type could be the coastline which the access was served by the private house, just like this. And the second type could be the access was cut by some public facilities, such as this harbor. A third one could be the access is cut by the highway, just like the first case study. And the last type, I think, in this type, we can work to the coast edge, but there are some limitations or restrictions, such like this. There are a huge forest, and it will take us a long time to work to the coastline. So there are some different kinds of coastline. In my later research, I will choose one or two to make my design, I think. Actually, I didn't start my own design and choose an exact site. I'll do it later. But I think the possible outcomes could be the First one, connect more coastal areas with community. Second one should be create more open areas for people to have fun, nearby the beach maybe. And finally, I want to say, whatever we did in the design, I think we should keep the original natural and historical characters. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Senor?
Okay, you are talking about access
Yeah.
to the water or to the edge,
To the coastline. Maybe.
to the coastline,
Yeah. Coastal areas.
from inland.
From
the land.
center. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, in Auckland,
Yeah.
there is 300,000 boats. Everyone can access the coast freely
Yeah.
from the water.
But I focus more on the walkway maybe. Maybe.
So the first point is that you need to establish why is more interesting accessing the coast from this side than from this side. Okay, because the coast is already accessible by boat, and Auckland is famous for the city of sails. Everyone's got a boat. There is, if you research, there is 350,000 boats.
Your supervisor has a boat.
Okay,
A tinny.
so that is something that you need to think about.
Define your terms.
Define your terms of access to the coast. And then, I don't know, I think it is a little bit too generic.
What's the specific problem?
Yeah. You know,
Generic
I mean-
or too wide?
generic, yeah, probably too wide. I mean, there is 3,500 kilometers of coast. If you cannot access here, in New Zealand it's easy. You drive another 50k, you access somewhere else.
And it's probably just as good.
Yeah,
And it's as good as the next door.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's in the Act, it's in the RMA about access to coastline. But at the back of my mind, there are places where you want to make it difficult to access
Yeah.
because you don't want everyone going there, and perhaps you want to keep them pristine. So, whereas I think there are areas where it's desirable to have
Yeah.
better access. I'm not sure that I actually agree it should be everywhere, nor that the type of access is the same. So then we come into, what are we talking about when we talk about access? Like pedestrian access or access for vehicles or boats.
Boat access,
Helicopter.
helicopter.
Yeah. So there are just some things to be thought about. And I would steer very clear from talking about Maori's reaction to the Foreshore and Seabed Act, unless you really research it well from all angles.
But he has to go there.
All right, but in that case, he has to
Research
use
it,
very
yeah.
precise words and get it accurate.
Yeah.
Because that's impossible not to.
Yeah,
To
it's
have the
such a
project
kind of
without-
word.
Yeah, that's not possible.
Because you can't look at it from one perspective. I mean, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky.
But it,
But you can't avoid it if you have
Yeah. Okay.
you have to mention it.
All right. Well, I mean, you could also start with the Hauraki Gulf Act rather than the foreshore. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to go to the Foreshore and Seabed Act. You could just do the Hauraki Gulf Act, and then you've got Auckland as your starting point rather than the whole of New Zealand, which might
Be a
focus
little
things
bit-
a bit
So they
more.
could
Too
be,
big.
And I mean, you're more expert in this. RMA is changing, obviously, supposed to be changing. So is this going to have an application for access to the coast?
Well, at the moment it's only changing in process, and we don't know where it's going with the Section 6 matters yet. So,
Right.
yeah, no, I wouldn't worry
Yeah.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just wrapping up. Just a few more comments, maybe Catherine can.
Yeah, I'll just again echo a couple of points. Yeah, I did think it was a problem to sort of present. I don't think it's what you meant, but present the assumption that it's always good to open up coastal spaces to people. I just wrote always. No, no, we don't want some people. You know, we don't want people in some places for other reasons. But and I also thought that I do think there's a very real issue and a real problem about certain kinds of access in certain kinds of coastal areas, and I'm sure that's what you're thinking through as you develop your project, because the case study that although there's lots of beautiful coast area, and if you get out on your boat and that sort of thing, but there are lots of people in certain parts of Auckland, kids who haven't been to the beach, in their lives, or they just haven't got there. There's all sorts of barriers, social, economic, as well as physical barriers for people to be able to use coastal spaces. So I think that there's a very real issue there, but it needs to be sort of articulated more into what kinds of issues. So I just wondered if this was more about urban coastline.
That's good. Yeah.
And emphasising that. And
connecting it up with with Haurahi thing, and then you actually get into an Auckland problem. The city's growing. It's suddenly we've got something to get your teeth into. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to pick any certain areas, but they've done research in places like South Auckland and children who've hardly ever been to the beach, and it's only half not that far away. So there is a real issue, and it's just about sort of in that process of developing the proposal, just becoming more and more refined and sort of specific.
And you might, if you're going to use something like Onehunga, you might actually look at the opportunities for creating access as well as the kind of negatives. I mean, that highway paid for the Onehunga, for sure. It was a barrier, and I'm not sure how the new Plymouth got paid for, but it may be that there are kind of opportunities or unseen opportunities, how to make them happen. So rather than just a design, but actually catalysts for that access.
Yeah, like the tunnel under suppose there's the tunnel that's going under the harbour. That's going to come out somewhere. It's going to be it's going to access somewhere. So there's going to be immediate issues about that.
At the moment, it's going to come out in the middle of the harbour.
So one thing is access, and the other thing is you are talking about connection of the coastline to the city centre or to the community.
I would stay away from the city centre.
Doesn't work like that. There is no city centre connecting to the coastline, but the community can connect to the coastline, as you were saying, Catherine, like people that have not seen the sea, but they live this far away from the sea. So it's how do you connect the community to the coastline?
That's another side of the equation.
And its connection is not access. Nobody is stopping a kid in whatever to walk to the beach, but they will never think to go to the beach. It's free access already. You can walk to the beach, but those people are not connected to the coastal. So you need to define if it is urban or no, and if you are connecting. You are talking about access or connection.
Okay. Do you think it will be useful just to narrow down the research? I agree with that, connecting communities to the coastline. is a better framed question than accessible coastline. But do you think we should go just about beaches rather than other types of coastline, like reclaimed coastline or
Well, if you do it with reclaimed land, then it will be really interesting. Why we cannot access Port of Auckland?
That's huge.
You know?
That's huge.
Took me PhD.
Yeah.
So we should call it beaches and then.
I think it's
Yeah, maybe
urban or
beaches.
non or rural. You know?
Well, no, because I don't, you know, I think it would be difficult to mix the CBD and the waterfront with, you know, South Auckland.
I mean, it might be urban beach.
Urban
All
beach.
these are all possible
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
But they're quite
Yeah.
different.
They
They're all
are
different,
different.
but it's,
And for
I think
example,
it's for Cal just to
yeah.
kind of decide
Choose
and then
which one.
Yeah.
which one he wants to.
Yeah.
So these are great suggestions, and
Yeah.
and Nikolai can kind of
Yeah.
help you
Yeah, we talked about it.
explore these ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we
Because-
can wrap the conversation up.
Okay, just the last thing is that, you know, because I think you had an illustration of Hillsborough, for example. So you've got your hills and your bush, and then you've got the beaches at the bottom. It's completely different. I mean, hardly anyone ever goes to those
Yeah, I mean, the
beaches.
same
You know?
is on the North Shore around Unitec.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
They're accessible, but you have to walk them to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you just need to, you know, refine and decide exactly what you want to. You know, very
Cool.
good.
Cool. Great. Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's really great.